like many other people my age, I'm concerned about the increased reliance on technology. And here's a story about why learning all the things is also helpful and important. A couple of years ago, I was in Portugal in the middle of a storm that knocked out the electricity and the internet, and I was forced to navigate by landmarks in a city I had never been to. In fact, I've recently, in the past couple of weeks, seen pictures of Sintra when it's not covered with clouds and realized it is even more amazing than I had any idea because I couldn't see things until I was right up next to them. So I had no idea of the grandeur and the scale of just how amazing that city is. I mean, I'm glad I went. I just didn't get to see it. So last May, when I went to France, I had a contingency plan. I had printed maps and a small, cheap compass. And when I arrived in France, about 5 hours behind schedule, which meant I had only one more train to catch that would take me from Paris to Saint-Malo in time to not have to spend the night in Paris, I came out of the subway system. It was overcast, and I had no idea where the sun was, which way was north and south, because, of course, when you come from underground to the surface, you lose your orientation. And I had not lost it since the airport. I took my maps and my compass over to an awning that covered what looked like a stall that was currently closed, set it out under so it was away from the rain, oriented the map, and I was on my way. And I speak some French, not I wouldn't say fluently, probably conversantly, to where I was able to navigate and ask questions, and I was not reliant on the internet to continue to work around any kind of electricity because I wasn't sure where I could charge my phone. The airplane that I landed on did not have chargers in it, so I did not land with a full battery, and I needed to make sure I had battery until I could get to Saint-Malo, where my friend was going to pick me up at the train station in case I had any kind of problems. Once I got on the train, it was fine, but I didn't know that. I had never been to France before. Um, the point of this is that no one's going to steal my paper maps and my cheap compass. The people who were old enough to have any idea what I was doing were, I think, just shocked to see anyone actually doing it. Even if you stole my paper maps, I usually have like 3 copies of them. I learned that. I had them in Portugal as well. But it was raining, so every day I had to get a different one out because they got destroyed by the rain. So every time you pull it out in the rain, it gets slightly damaged. And eventually, by the time the day was over, the paper map I had taken with me was trash. I even got one from the tourist authority the next morning I was there, and that one didn't survive the trip. So the professional ones don't last any better in the rain. But I had multiples of them, so if you take it from me, I just go back to the hotel or get in my bag and pull out another one, and I'm good to go. People don't usually have 3 or 4 cell phones because the year before in Spain, I saw at least 2 cell phones stolen per day on the subway by people who were holding them and using them near the door. And as the door would close, people would come by and take them out of their hands and run away, and the door would shut because we have become so dependent on technology. Technology is the things that they want. They don't want my maps. They don't want my compass. Most of them don't know what a paper map is. It's been a long time since people printed out directions on MapQuest and took them with them. Most young people don't know how to use a compass. Most old people have not had to use one for a while and are probably out of practice. But a cell phone that you're currently using that they know is unlocked is a tool they can use, and it's a very expensive one to replace, particularly if you're in a foreign country. Now, I take 2 phones with me. I have my old Galaxy S5 that I use as a camera so that if you take my camera, you took my camera, not my phone. Also, I've learned that people look at it like that's the phone you're using, with not realizing that I'm only using it as a camera and not as the actual phone itself. That way, it deters them and makes them not want to take things from me. If I had an actual digital camera, I would be using it instead. But I damaged that hiking once. I got some sand in it and it won't open and turn on anymore. So I have this old cell phone that I use in that case instead. There is some utility in these, what we would call antiquated technologies. Some of them are higher fidelity, higher reliability. One of the things I love about VCRs is the VHS tape that I watched in 1995, if I still have it, and still remembers where I stopped watching it when I stopped watching it. Despite the fact that it's in a new player and hasn't been plugged into electricity for a long time. Cassette tapes are the same way. Maps are the same way. If I go back to Portugal, I can take those maps and they would still be useful. In fact, sometimes more useful. when my friend and I were driving around in France, we were trying to get in out of Caen in Normandy, and the map feature on iPhones, because his brother had loaned us an iPhone to use, so in case we had to make calls, um, wasn't working. It was trying to direct us towards a street that was all torn up for construction, and it would not re-navigate any other way. I basically had to use the map to figure out where we were, chart an alternate route, and I made some mistakes because it doesn't tell you which roads are one way. And then finally, once we got out of Caen sufficiently, we were able to get back onto the highway that we needed in order to head back to where I was staying. So the technology is not 100% reliable, nor is it reliable that you will have it. It is also not reliable that it will work. In Portugal, there was no internet. There was no internet. There was no email. There was no accessing my. If I had not had printouts of my reservation at the hotel, I don't know if they would have accepted that I had already paid. I might have had to pay, and then the next day they made it right somehow. I'm not sure, but it made it easy because I just handed them the paper copies that I brought with me, and since I don't speak Portuguese and they didn't speak English or Spanish, I was able to check into the hotel that first night because there was proof of it without having the internet. We have become reliant on and dependent on it in some ways. Now it's great. I love going on YouTube and figuring out how to fix my car when something comes up that I've never heard of and never had to face before. Because let's face it, if you have a car that's almost 30 years old, you're going to have to fix things nobody else is fixing because they don't keep their cars that long. But I think the push to abandon all of these things is too fast and too far because young people coming up today, don't know what a compass is. They don't know. They're not used to using paper. They don't like paper, and if their battery dies, their cell phones are basically just a glorified paperweight. Now, cell phones can be damaged by rain too, so they're not necessarily better than paper. But no one's going to steal my maps and my compass. So I will continue to take them because I know that in a pinch I can fall back on them, or if I don't want to look like a tourist, even though I definitely sound like one and probably look like one most of the places I go, then maybe I will be left alone because I can blend in enough that I think people have left me alone because they're really not sure where I'm from. I speak that language, I seem to know where I'm going, and maybe he's not a tourist, even if he's not a local. Those are just some of the things I've decided to do that have helped me in my travels. It's nice to have the ability to have options in case something comes up that's unexpected, because invariably something does. I was just talking with some friends of mine who spent 30 days in Europe, and I asked if they had ever had any problems with the internet went out, and they said yes. And so if you are relying on the internet to work and it doesn't work, you need to have a backup plan. And that's really what all this other antiquated technology is: pencils, paper, all of those things, regular phones. Because I have an actual phone that plugs into the wall here in my office, but it always works, even when the internet doesn't. And so I can still communicate with people. And I think that's why they have it, so that if I lose the internet and they need to talk to me at work, they can talk to me at work without having to come and visit me in my office. So it gives us options. And that's one of the things I think that we should instill in the youth today, is helping them figure out how to expand their options, increase their options, because that will give them greater opportunities, especially because complications always seem to arise when you don't have a backup plan. Anyway, make a plan, make a contingency, and make your way through the world the best you can. Godspeed. Take care.